Oh, gnarly, dude. Looks like you just went overboard. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Overboard. I'm your host, Anthony.
And I'm your host, Jenny. And welcome to the first podcast of 2021. We are hoping that this year turns out to be a lot better than 2020. Obviously, there's still stuff going on in the world right now that is bleeding into 2021. But hopefully by the end of the year, things are on a more positive, straight path, you know?
Yeah. Like, honestly, it's already a better year because we made it through 2020. Am I right? Like,
yeah.
If you survived 2020, bless up. Because
kudos. Yeah.
It was rough. It was rough, and we're feeling it. But we're coming back with more energy. We're gonna hit harder, right? We're all gonna bring those positive vibes, and hopefully meet some goals, right? So we kind of wanted to talk today about New Year's resolutions, kind of the absurdity of some New Year's resolutions, how to make more impactful New Year's resolutions, and, just goal setting in general for the new. So there's a lot of skepticism around setting New Year's resolutions. Some people say you should set them. Some people say you shouldn't. But I don't know. Like, personally, I think setting New Year's resolutions is good as long as you don't make them too big. I'm more of a person, I've had to learn over the years, setting smaller, more achievable goals. And when I say small, I mean like teeny tiny, like
minuscule.
That is more beneficial and more encouraging for you than setting some big goal. Like, I know a lot of people's New Year's resolutions revolve around going to the gym or losing a certain amount of weight, right? If that is going to be one of your goals, maybe don't set it at like, oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds or 30 pounds or 100 pounds. Because in reality, that is a lot of weight to kind of to like lose. That's a lot, especially if and you're definitely not going to lose that amount of weight in a short time. Or like, my friends in the gym, right? They want to be like, I want to make my gym gains. I want to increase my bench press by like 100 pounds or like 50 pounds. Well, yeah, like 50 pounds, which that's going to take a couple months.
Yeah, you can't expect something to happen super quickly.
Right. And I feel like it almost seems like people get discouraged
because they set their goals too big, or they set too many goals at once, and then you get discouraged because you get overwhelmed because you're either not reaching your goal quickly enough, or you're not even completing it weekly. So like you said, going to the gym, if they set their goal at going to the gym 5 days per week and they're only going twice, they're like, oh, I might as well just not do it because I'm not able to get to my goal. And it's like, you should be starting with like 1 to 2 days a week and then gradually grow as you get that down. Rather than having
like and it goes same. I know a lot of people, they'll set New Year's resolutions for like earning money or making money too. Like, I want to have create X amount of income in my life. And it's like, don't make that your goal. Make the goal the how are you going to create that amount of income, right? So you could say, I'm going to start an online business, right? I wouldn't even start there. I would say, I'm going to research how to start an online business and narrow down what online business I want. Right. Something really small, because when you meet that goal, that's going to encourage you. And the cool thing about like New Year's resolutions, I mean, really it just is fundamental, comes down to goal setting, right? Is once you meet that tiny goal, you can always set a new smaller goal to achieve.
Yeah.
Right?
And be like willing. We all change throughout the year, just in a year. Like, so your goals at the beginning of the year are not going to be the same as the goals that you have by the end of the year in most cases. So for me, I like to reevaluate how my life is going and how well I'm reaching my goals every 3 to 6 months, because every 3 to 6 months I've changed so much that sometimes the goals that I thought I wanted to accomplish by the end of the year are no longer even goals that I want to accomplish or like hold any value to me anymore, you know? So
I think,
like,
yeah, and definitely like when goal setting, right? Like, I think people should place a little bit more emphasis on why,
yeah,
you know,
always have a why.
Because the why, I feel like, will carry you through. That will remind you, you know, just how important meetings, whatever your goal is to you, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, so like, again, I guess I'll use the gym example because that's literally the most common one you ever hear for New
right.
Year's.
Yeah, every year.
Right? Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna set that goal, why do you want to lose that? Why do you want to lose that weight? Why do you want to increase
and
your
it shouldn't
gains?
be just simply my why is because I want to lose weight. Like, why do you want to lose weight? Do you want to lose weight so that you can keep up with your kids? Do you want to lose weight so that you can travel and be able to walk everywhere? Do you want to lose weight because it's something that's going to help your internal health state, like your heart or something?
Yeah,
like,
or even your mental state. Like,
yeah,
will you feel better from it?
Yeah. So like,
overall?
What is the real reason why? Not so much like losing weight. Like, I just want to lose weight.
Because
like,
when you
why?
have a why, like we said, like that is what carries your goal. So I guess we're talking about goals. We're talking about New Year's resolutions right now, Jenny.
Yeah.
What are your goals? What was your New Year's resolution?
So I have 3 like main resolutions, because again, you want to start small. You don't want to add like 10, 15 different resolutions, because then you're going to spread yourself too thin. So one of my first goals was a goal that I kind of started in 2020, but I veered away from it and I want to stick to it more this year. And it's learning French by the end of the year. And my why behind it is because in the future, I plan to travel to a lot of places in Europe where the main language spoken is French. And I want to be able to communicate and to, you know, get around, read signs and stuff. And so learning French does that for me. So I want to be able to learn French to do that and to be able to speak with a French speaking native, or someone whose native language is French. And then also I want to yeah. And then also I want to start reading more. Recently, I've really started to enjoy reading, and anyone who knows me knows that is not how I was in the past. I kind of just strayed away from books as much as I possibly could, but recently I've started to really enjoy it, and I also think that it's such a good like habit to have, and it keeps your brain always functioning and helps you to learn faster. And there's just so many benefits behind reading. And since I'm really enjoying it, that is a goal that I have, and I want to read at least 1 book per month. So far, I'm doing pretty good. We're 2 weeks in, and I'm already almost through my 2nd book. So maybe I'll end up upping it later in the year to 2 books per month. You know, because like I said, goals change. So maybe by the end of the year, I'll have read 24 books, which is compared to like the 2 books a year I read before. That's pretty good.
I think
good
it's
amount.
What, like 85% of people don't even pick up a book after high school.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely like 85% of people. There's what, like 360 or 300. I don't even know. Like there's over 300 million people in the United States.
Yeah.
And only 85% of them don't read a book. And honestly, personally, I mean, I'm not going to try and talk about reading for a long time, but like, I'm not going to sit here and say I read all the time. I used to read a lot more when I was younger, which
Yeah,
is
you
funny
definitely
because
did.
you're reading more
Like
now
the
than
opposite,
I
yeah.
probably do.
Yeah.
But like reading's just good. Like if you ever feel like you're in a rut or, like having a crisis or something, just read a book, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like read a fantasy book if you really like fantasy. I personally like sci-fi. So I'll read a sci-fi book, or, if you want to read like a self-development book, those
Yeah,
are excellent.
that's
But
what I normally go
it
for is
really helps
self-help.
you get a new mindset. And I think that is what the biggest, it really helps people's mental health, especially in the year of like 2020, right? Like I know I read a little bit more in 2020. I got a book series, like the Chronicles of Prydain, because it's a fantasy book. It's like the Black Cauldron, if anybody's ever heard of that. It's that series. And they're kind of like kids books, but they're kids like fantasy books, and they're quick, easy reads.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my goal, was to just like read something quick and not daunting, something easy to read.
Right.
But it's the mindset, the ability to change your mindset. And I think that that's really important for people. But yeah, that's awesome, dude. 2
Yeah.
books.
And then my third one is kind of more just a general one. I'm kind of someone who normally tends to keep to myself. It's something that my family gets on me about a lot about. So I kind of want to take more time out to try to socialize more. I'm definitely very introverted, so that's something that tends to be a challenge for me. But yeah, I just want to obviously we're in a pandemic right now, so going and seeing people, and also in my state right now I can't really do that, but just FaceTiming people more, seeing like face-to-face contact rather than like texting or Snapchatting or anything like that. Just to try to push myself to develop more friendships and meet new people. So
Especially since you're in Texas, like you're in a brand new place.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I probably won't get to meet anybody here until everything, gets back to normal and I get back to normal. So
Yeah.
that will be a little bit, but I'm trying to be, that's another thing that kind of goes with that, is being like more optimistic, just trying to look at the bright side of everything that I can possibly can. And just worry less about what other people think and stuff. I don't know why. That's always been like such a struggle. I mean, I feel like it's a struggle for everybody, but I feel like once you get over it, it's just like so much easier to do everything that you want to do. So, but in general, my three goals were learning French, reading more, and developing more friendships, or spending more time socially.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think into like your last point, something that comes to mind, wanting to be more social. You said like a lot of people overthink about what other people think about them, and are anxious when, meeting or talking to people. I was once told this was when I was like going through a really like depressed phase, and was like, anxious socially and everything. And I wanted to improve myself socially. I actually think I read it in Dale Carnegie's, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like one of the first communications,
books
that they used when like communication started being taught in like colleges. So Dale Carnegie developed this book, but he said, if you're anxious about people, just kind of like keep in mind that most anyone you meet is also just as anxious as you are. And I think like that really helped me, because when I think about it, it's like people are, we can't like put ourselves into this box where we are where it's just us. We have to remember that everybody else is just as human as us. That means they are just as anxious as us. They don't know what to say to you just as well as you don't know what to say to them, So it's kind of just like, you really could say whatever.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. I think those are really good goals, Jenny.
What about you? What are your goals for this year? Have you set any yet?
So I did set one, and I actually already accomplished it. So it was really small.
Snaps.
And I actually have a tip to people or something like that. Don't procrastinate on your goals. Don't procrastinate, because I did that. So the goal I set was I wanted to apply for grad school this year. And I I applied to grad school last night. So I achieved that goal. But the priority deadline was last night at 11:59 p.m.
Yeah.
I turned in my application. I submitted my application at 11:58 p.m.
Wow.
With
really
1 minute on the clock. I was 1 minute away from not making the priority deadline. And I mean, I guess it's not a big deal, because like that was just the priority deadline, but
yeah,
I wanted to be admitted as priority, and that gives me the best chance of getting admitted. Right. So like, I don't even know, like I should have started,
preparing.
I've been looking into grad school for like the last couple months.
Yeah. So you should have.
Okay, January 15th January 15th. That's the deadline for priority. I'm going to start soon. And then it came to last week, and January 1st. And I was like, all right, I should probably start writing my essays, because for my graduate application, I had to write, I think like a 2-page personal statement, and then
Yikes.
5 essay questions that were 250 words each. And I wanted them to be very, very strong, so that, I had to take time for peer reviewing and editing and all that stuff. And I didn't. So I started the beginning of, whatever, I guess it would be last week now. I started the beginning of last week and started writing these essays, and then got to work on the final statement the day that the application was due. And so I was still editing, and I didn't have any peer review any of these essays until like 9-10 p.m. Like, shout out to my friends for even offering and wanting to peer review my papers that late, because it was like literally so last minute. And I wrote them, I was scrambling, I was stressed out, and the stress that comes with procrastination, right? It just, I was like,
especially when writing.
And I almost didn't, I got everything edited. It's 11:50 at this point. I'm finishing up the last of my edits and peer reviewing. I'm on the phone with my friend, and she's helping me edit and review the paper. And I'm like, okay, I got like 5 minutes left now. We got 5 minutes left. And we finished that. And then I'm like reviewing the whole application, going through that. It's 11:57 at this point. I'm like, oh God. Clock strikes 11:58. And I click the application button, to like the submit button on the application. And they're like, okay, now enter your payment information, because you have to pay to apply to the school. And I'm like, oh no. Cause like I was going to have to find my credit card, like type in all the information. That would have taken at least a minute. Thank God for Google.
Saved your information.
Praise Google. I will never talk smack about Google. I know they do a lot of shady stuff with our information, and they sell our information so that they can profit. But thank God for Google autofill. And, it autofilled all my information in. Like 11:58 with 30 seconds, maybe even 20 seconds on the clock, I submitted the payment. It went through, and I just barely made the priority deadline. And like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was so stressed out.
That's like a one tip that I have, or like I've kind of utilized, is I always give myself a time restraint on things. So like for instance, it's been proven that when you're put under a time pressure, you tend to get things done faster. So like the 9 hour or whatever, what's the average? 8 hours a day is the average work time for most people.
Yeah, 8
Yeah.
hours.
And but a lot of the times, if you were to give them a shorter time restraint, they would be able to finish everything they have to finish within 2 to 3 hours rather than the 8 hours. So if you give yourself a time restraint, so for instance, if you have to write a paper saying, I need to write this paper by either a certain time on the clock, or give yourself set an alarm and with a timer and put like, I'm going to give myself 3 hours to write this paper, you'll get it done in 3 hours because your brain is so focused on staying within the time constraint that it hyper focuses. So that's a little tip.
And even that, like if it's a project you're working on or just something you want to start and there is like an overall deadline, honestly, like start it as soon as possible, because it's more stressful to try and cram it all into like a time constraint. Obviously, like you are more focused and stuff, but like one thing that helped me, because I have bad ADD, and I can't stay focused for 3 hours. There's no way in heck. I mean, I could probably work my way up to it, but I have to start it slow in increments, right? So like
the Pomodoro method.
The Pomodoro method. Like specifically what I did when I started writing these short essays for my application is I started at the beginning of the week. I said, I'm going to finish at least one 250 word essay question a day. And then on the last day, I am going to work on my personal statement, which I should have worked on my personal statement throughout as well, because that was way more writing than
the other
short essay questions were. But that kind of helped me, because it only took me an hour and a half to write each of the essay questions. And what I did is I only actually worked on the essay questions for about 35, 45 minutes. And then I took like a nice 10, 15 minute break. And then I went back to it because I wanted my brain to be fresh. Because I think that's a lot of like, I don't know, for anybody who has writing projects, like you'll rack your brain and you'll be going off. Like sometimes you'll get into the flow of it, but then there comes a certain point where you kind of fall out of that flow and you don't really remember what you were even writing anymore. And then you go off on a tangent that isn't relevant to what you're writing. Or, I mean, if you're producing music, I've done the same thing, like where I'd be like making like a song, right? And I sit there and I'm racking my brains for hours. And then I completely like end up creating like another melody for a completely different vibe of a song.
Right.
Yeah, and it's still in the same project. So it's good to like give yourself those short breaks. But where you're talking about goals, right? Sorry, I went off on a massive tangent. So yeah, that was my main goal. My first goal that I really set was applying for grad school. Knocked that out of the park. My next goal for this year is to publish my first video, streaming video, and do my first stream for gaming. And obviously, I have my PC on the way. I've been waiting. I ordered a PC so that I could do video editing, music production. I just needed something with a little bit more firepower than this laptop that I have here, because the quality of this recording right now isn't as great as it could be, because my laptop is literally like maxing out. Like I think it's like sitting at like 90% CPU usage, and all I'm doing is recording video of myself. I'm not running audio. If I ran audio through my laptop, it wouldn't even be working. So that's my next kind of big New Year's resolution, New Year's goal, is to just kind of get my stream started. And honestly, that is one of them, but then the other one is to get my Twitch page and my YouTube page situated and fleshed out so that when I do start the stream and do start the recording, that it's just ready to go. So that's my next big goal. I'm just going to leave it there for right now.
Yeah, that's a good
because I don't really know what else I want to do. Like, of course I want to get into the gym, right? More, but we're still dealing with COVID stuff. So it's not as tangible of a thing to me. And I can't stand wearing a mask in the gym. Like, gyms are open right now here in Michigan, but they make you wear a mask.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to freaking squat or do deadlifts, it is extremely hard to breathe with a mask on. Like, I literally it's like being waterboarded almost, because my mask, I sweat like a wildebeest stuck in a freaking swamp, dude. I'm like
nasty.
Shaking the sweat off me. Like, it's dripping down my face, getting in my eyes, stinging my eyes. And it soaks my mask. And then it's like I'm trying to breathe through this cloth that has just been soaked with water. And it's literally like being waterboarded. Like, and I don't expect anybody to know what being waterboarded, but you basically can't breathe. It's like you're drowning. So that's kind of been a turnoff for me with the gym. But yeah, those are my goals. I completed the apply for grad school. My next big goal is to get the streaming game and recordings YouTube channel up and running.
Yeah.
And get all that situated.
I'm excited for when that happens.
Oh yeah, it's going to be live, because today at least my energy is on 10,000, and I'm going to try and keep that energy at least for the next 3 months.
Above 900, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But my main takeaway from that, do not procrastinate on your goals if they have a time constraint.
Yeah.
Don't procrastinate.
Yeah, just do anything, not even just goals, but anything you want to do in life, do it as soon as you can. Because I think that's one of the things that I've learned, being stuck in the house, not just from the pandemic, but because I literally can't do anything right now, is just the amount of things that I put off and said I'll do this next week or I'll do this next month, and now I can't do it. So it's just keep that in mind. There could be a day where you just can't do it at all, So just to do it as soon as you possibly can do it.
And you don't have to do big things. Like we said, we've been talking about trying to make them small and very tangible. I'm going to give a mad shout out to, Grizz and the Coolabunga fam, and everybody who curates that, because they brought to my attention this concept of tiny wins, right? And it doesn't even, if you made your bed today, if you picked up one item off the floor, off your messy room, if you hung up one shirt or even threw some dirty clothes in a hamper, that's a tiny win, and that deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Especially, over 2020, we're all struggling. So every win, makes a major difference in improving your mindset. And so when you focus on those tiny wins, you feel like a winner. You do. It really does change. So like I said, shout out to Grizz and the Coolabunga fam.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Grizz is or the Coolabunga fam, you need to go on your Instagram right now. You need to look up Coolabunga. I think Grizz and the Coolabunga fam is actually doing another virtual Coolabunga session, and they bring in a bunch of great workshops for mental health and setting great intentions for the 2020 year. So that sounds like something cool to you. Go check out Coolabunga. Camp Coolabunga is what it's called. Grizz, you spell Grizz Griz. He's from Detroit too, Michigan fam. Hey.
And then the last thing that I want to talk about on this podcast that kind of goes along with reflecting is, and it's something that I'm going to start doing. I started this year as my first year doing this, and I think it's actually a really good idea. I saw it on a YouTube page, I think, that I was watching. I don't remember whose it was, but at the beginning of each year, like if you have a notebook or something, or if you want to type it up on your computer, whichever one you prefer. I'm somebody who prefers a pen to paper, but if you're more digital, then you can go for that. At the start of the year, write down everything that's happening in your year, or at that current moment, like where you are financially, where you're living, how your happiness is, how your health is. Like write down everything, kind of like a journal. And then at the end of the next year, do the same thing, or the beginning of the next year, do the same thing. And then after a few years, you can go back, or even after that year, you can go back and read how your year started and where you are at the end of the year / beginning of the year. So, and I think it's just like a good idea because there's, like I said, so much changes in a year, and like you could have a really bad year one year and then not really see any progression, but then you go back and look at this journal and you're like, oh, wait, I did make some progress in my life, and my life did change in a good way, or there were little things that were positive about this year that I might not have seen if I didn't write it down. So
right,
that's something I've started.
A lot happens in a year and it's really easy to forget, So I agree with that. Like having that to look back at is like,
yeah.
And you can even do it like every few months, right? Like every few months, every 6 months.
Yeah, if you wanted to hold like a monthly
Every 2
journal
weeks.
or a day. Like a lot of people do daily journal, so then they can go back through their journal. But I think like even just doing the once at the beginning of the year, once at the end of the year, like to compare, if you're not into journaling like daily or monthly, it's just takes you like 10 minutes to write it all out, and then you can compare it at the end of the year. So I don't know. I think it's a good habit, or a good little thing to have to look at, especially down the line a few years. You're like, wow, like my life has really changed.
Yeah.
Because we forget about that.
It is really, it's super easy to forget.
But yeah, those are our little tips and a little insight as to what our goals are for this year. And we hope you guys learned something from this podcast, or that you can share with your friends. And if you guys have ideas of how to have a better year, or ways to implement goals better, leave them in the comments of either the YouTube video, or you can go over to our Instagram. It's Overboard X Podcast. That's Overboard, the letter X Podcast. And you can leave us a comment there. You could even text us. We have a phone number that's always in the description, or you could leave a voicemail on there. Also, we're going to be doing some voicemail videos in the near future. So if you guys have any questions or like advice that you want to be answered, advice that you want to be given, you can send a voicemail.
If you want to speak words.
Yeah. You can send us a text or a voicemail on our phone number, and we'll be doing that in a podcast in the future. And as always, be sure to share this with your friends. And thanks for watching and coming with us.
Let's make 2021 a great year. Like, we're taking no prisoners. We are coming out. We are smashing down every barrier that stands in our way. We're gonna freaking, I don't even know, not storm the Capitol because that's crazy, but we're gonna do great things because we believe in ourselves, right? Like, let's do it. Let's get out there. Let's put boots on the ground. Let's freaking just make it happen. Let's like shove COVID in a bag and like send it to the bottom of the ocean with cinder block weights, like mafia mobsters used to do back in the day to people they didn't like. Like, let's get it, boy. We'll get to steadier waters eventually.